Welcome to Author of the Month, your inside track to new and veteran authors alike. My name is Brandon, a paraprofessional at the Missouri City Branch Library. Today, I will be your guide. The author this month is Albert Camus, a writer, essayist, playwright, and columnist known for his examinations of the character of man and morality rooted in philosophy. Narratives, plays, and philosophical, analytical writing are his vehicles. Without further ado, let us begin. Albert Camus, 1913 to 1960, was born on November 7, 1913, in Monrovia, Algeria. The country of Algeria, situated in North Africa, was under French occupation from 1930 through 1962. Camus's father, Lucien Camus, died at the First Battle of the Marne during World War I, when Camus was only 1 year old. Camus's mother, Catherine Helene Camus, was partially deaf and greatly affected by her husband's death. Her being illiterate was another concern, so she entrusted the care and raising of her sons to her strong-willed mother. Despite this, Camus still felt much love for his mother, as he alluded to in his unfinished novel, The First Man. Being a phenomenal student at school, Camus's potential was recognized by his teacher, Louis Germain, who encouraged him to apply for a scholarship, which enabled him to attend high school. Camus would later dedicate his Nobel Prize acceptance speech to Germain. At age 17, after complications with tuberculosis, Camus attended the University of Algiers, studying Greek literature, poetry, and philosophy. And in 1936, Camus earned his graduate diploma in philosophy. Camus's diagnosis of tuberculosis caused him to be denied enlistment to the French army during World War II. Next stop for Camus was a stint in journalism, starting at Alger Republicain. He also joined the Communist Party, although he quickly became disillusioned with it and broke all ties. In time, Camus wrote for two publications simultaneously, Paris-based Gallimard Publishing Company during the day, and the underground newspaper Combat at night. Jean-Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir were also on the Combat staff, as were André Malraux and Michel Gallimard. In Combat, Camus wrote clandestinely under the names Albert Mathé, Bouchard, and the joint pseudonym Satone. By the end of World War II, Combat had become a daily newspaper, with Camus as editor. But in 1944, Camus left journalism to focus entirely on other forms of writing. Playwriting for multiple theater groups, narratives rooted in Greek myth and historical figures, and essays all became machinations of thought for Camus to explore, most of which we will delve into soon. Camus's three cycles of writing. Albert Camus journeyed in his thoughts in writing, feeling a desire to expound upon the vices and virtues of man. To this end, he arranged a series of plays, narratives, and essays for his travels. Each cycle is based on a mythological figure. The first cycle was Sisyphus, representing absurdity. The second, Prometheus, revolt. And the third, Nemesis, meaning fortune or retribution, which remained unfinished. Cycle 1, Sisyphus, The Stranger, a novel, 1942. The Stranger is a novel that centers on a young Algerian man named Mersault, who seemingly murders another man for no reason. The actual trial and punishment are not focused on the crime, but instead, his refusal to conform to society's expectations of appropriate emotional behavior. Mersault is viewed as a stranger in life because he does not abide by the norms set in society for emotions and acts of common humanity. R. Barton Palmer, examining the form of the novel, noted in International Fiction Review that Camus eschews the causality typical of conventional narratives and instead presents a slice of the daily routine, devoid of intention and plot as it may be, a procession of events linked only by chronology. Event succeeds event, perception replaces perception, without any values by which the process may be interpreted. The Stranger has become a modern classic and is viewed as one of Albert Camus's most important works. Cycle 1, Sisyphus. Caligula, a play, 1944. Caligula follows the unraveling of Cassius Caesare Augustus Germanicus, the young emperor of Rome, from a gentle man to a cruel and heartless ruler. Once his sister and lover Drusilla dies, Caesar revolts against life to the extreme. Since life is absurd, Caligula reasons every act is equally senseless. He then proceeds to prove his point by destroying accepted conventions. For instance, he seduces a man's wife with the man himself as witness, causes a famine, and tortures his subjects with the aim of educating the self-deluding patricians. Eventually, the road of revolt is decimated when Caesar is made to pay for his crimes with his assassination. His final words are those of regret and reflection. "I didn't take the right road. I came out nowhere. My freedom was not the right kind." Cycle 1, Sisyphus, The Fall, Novel, 1956. The Fall, a novel, is a monologue set in the red light district of Amsterdam, related over 5 days by Jean Baptiste Clements, a one-time barrister or lawyer in Paris who is successful financially and otherwise, who has quit his trained vocation. Assured in himself and his past until most recently, Clements is racked with guilt for his lack of action when faced with potentially saving someone's life. Seeing himself become a hypocrite if you were to judge others, Clements often asks himself, who is to say he is not equally guilty? Kirkus Reviews relates in a critique, "It does not constitute a novel, but rather a metaphysical search in barely fictional form. It will have a purely intellectual appeal. Its implications, as well as its references and its analogies, are recondite." Cycle 2, Prometheus, The Plague, Novel, 1947. The Plague, a novel, is considered one of Albert Camus's most complex works. Set in the small Algerian town of Oran, life is easygoing and unchanging, until a disease spreads quietly through the idyllic town. One rat dies, then a few more. A human becomes ill and perishes. Within a short time, a plague ravages the population. The story is shared from the third-person perspective of Dr. Ryu, who strives to aid the plague victims as a way of resolving his own fears about the purpose of his life. The Plague has been viewed as Camus's most anti-Christian novel, especially as it confronts fascism, Nazism, and the horrors of World War II. Views regarding this vary by critic. Rec ventured that Camus suggests that faith is questionable, that man's torments are unjustifiable, that religion offers no answers to the travail of quotient existence. Another critic, Patrick McCarthy, reveals that Camus had a more positive theme within the book. Ryu and his friends demonstrate the moral values of courage and fraternity, which do not defeat the plague, but which bear witness against it. Cycle 2, Prometheus, The Rebel, Novel, 1951. The last edition of the Promethean cycle, The Rebel, Le Homme Revolté, is a political novel by Albert Camus that explains his thoughts on a true revolt that stands for the interests of all without diminishing the individual. Camus's impetus to write The Rebel stemmed from his lack of understanding of how men could behave cruelly to each other, namely, the atrocities committed during World War II. To Camus, revolt is the impulse that drives an individual to the defense of a dignity common to all men. Using examples from various leaders within history, including the Marquis de Sade and Rimbaud, Camus outlines their shortcomings according to his definition of revolt. At the time of its release, The Rebel was controversial for its critique and condemnation of certain ideologies, including Marxism and Stalinism. Cycle 3, Incomplete. Cycle 3, Nemesis, was never completed. Camus was in the throes of overcoming a writer's block pending his next project when tragedy struck. He died in a car accident on January 4th, 1960, age 46. A New York Times contributor wrote, "News of the death stunned the French literary world, of which Monsieur Camus was one of the brightest lights." The First Man, the novel Camus had been writing, was 100 pages of rough draft, set to be an epic of the first French settlers in Algeria. Notes of further chapters were located in Camus's crashed vehicle. Initially unreleased per the wishes of his widow, years later Camus's children published the novel. The main character of the book, Jacques Comier, a French literary luminary, seems to be based on Camus for the similarities of the course of their lives and goals. Praising the novel, Los Angeles Times Book Review's Richard Eder asserted that The First Man has an overwhelming emotional integrity. Nicholas DeBanco in the Chicago Tribune Books observed that, while the novel betrays the haste of its composition throughout, the overwhelming impression is of how well Camus wrote, how natural and unforced was his eloquence. That's a wrap on today's video. Be sure to look for Albert Camus's books within your local Fort Bend County library, or place a book on hold online or over the phone for curbside pickup. For more information on Albert Camus and his titles, visit www.goodreads.com. And for a deeper breakdown of his titles and accompanying professional reviews, explore the Novelist Database, which can be reached on the Fort Bend County Library's website within the section entitled Databases. Thanks for watching. Until next time.